Welcome to another episode of TikTok Famous Podcast. I am your host, Meredith Willits, and today I have on Kim Minch, Real Life Parent Guide, and we are going to be talking about all the things parenting, including her number one new release, Becoming Me While Raising You. She's been featured on Fox News Radio, national TV segments, and podcasts worldwide. Kim is a trusted voice in conscious parenting. She specializes in helping parents of emerging adults build healthy communications and boundaries with compassion and clarity. So stay with us.
You're listening to the TikTok Famous Podcast, where viral fame meets raw reality. Join your host, Meredith Willits, as she dives deep with your favorite creators to uncover the real stories behind the scroll, the highs, the lows, the algorithm chaos, and everything in between. This is not your average interview. This is the TikTok Famous Podcast.
Kim, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to ask you all the questions.
I'm so excited to answer all the questions, Meredith. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I actually had a fan reach out to me of the TikTok Famous Podcast and asked you to be here. So you are literally famous. People are asking for you to be on a podcast. So I love that so much. You're helping parents all over the place with this crazy transition. And I remember, so I have 4 kids. Youngest is 14. Oldest is going to be 29 in a month. And I have all these people that would come at me and like, being a new mom is so hard and toddlers are so difficult. And I always said, wait till you have no control. Wait till they're like, that's when it gets really, really scary. But that's actually when you come in, right?
Yes, oddly enough. I mean, I never went into this thinking that I would be exclusively coaching parents of 18 and older. I never thought, A, there would be a market for that, B, a need. But I am a mom of 5. My youngest is 20. My oldest is going to be 38 next month. And I've been a parent since I was 18. So I've been a parent obviously a long time. But I didn't go into this. I really went into this wanting to help parents of like middle school and high schoolers to get to be proactive. I didn't want them to experience what I did when my oldest was 20 and fell into an addiction to alcohol due to his mental health. But through the magic, literally, of TikTok and other platforms, what kept coming back at me is these parents of 20 somethings, these parents who, were literally walked what I walked with my son in 2008. And so I've become that coach that specializes in helping parents through this very tough transitional time, whether mental health or substance use is a part of it or not. It's still a big shift in your parenting and super important for parents to approach it with the right attitude and the right skills.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of boomers and Gen Xers that we have these parent, and they can't, it's like, I'm 50. You can stop parenting me now. Like, just be my friend, and one of the people that one of the things I say as a coach, I'm not a parenting coach, but as a coach is, say to your kid or your adult or your husband or your friend, are you venting or are you asking for advice?
Sure.
And that statement right there has been life-changing in parenting my adults. And also me teaching my husband, like, I'm just venting. I'm not looking for you to fix me. Because as we raise or are in a relationship with adult children, you do have to have such a huge boundary. You do have to fight that internal desire to fix and help and change and do the things that we've done for 2 decades and then all of a sudden kind of stop.
Yeah. And ideally that would stop gradually through middle school, high school, and, previous to, but we live in a culture that is so driven towards success and getting our kids to the next level. And there's no shortage of parents investing in their kids, whether it's a special coach, a tutor, whatever it is, therapist. They will invest in their kids, but they don't invest in their parenting. And
Wow.
parents have more control than they think, but it's not about controlling their kids' behavior, especially as they get into their 20s. It's about how they're showing up and the importance of what that looks like. And I truly believe that parents, they're trying to control things. Whatever illusion of control we had when they were little is gone when they're,
Yeah.
but they continue to try and do that. And then when it's not working, they start to get fearful because some of these young people are making very obviously unhealthy, potentially serious decisions and choices that they're making. So parents just are in this state of fear. And the more they come from a state of fear, the more disconnected the relationship becomes.
Yeah. I notice that as I lean towards my adult children and try to, you know, um, it it definitely goes south. The more I back up and just kind of like, "Oh, you're doing that? That's wonderful." You know, like sometimes you have to just breathe and white knuckle through it, and also remember the stuff that I was doing at their age, and they're so much better humans than I was. Um, but it is scary because, like I always talk about so many people, and I think it's just innate that our children are become by proxy an extension of our egos. So
Mhm.
as they go north or south, we feel that we are going good or bad, successful or failure. And it's so painful. And I talk to people all the time like, stop stealing your children's failures.
Mm.
Any failure before 18 is a gift from God
Mm.
to because they're in that safe bubble still. Allow them to feel that pain and don't steal it from them. Don't take those lessons because then they're going to be forced to learn them at 22, 32, 42. Like they have to learn it. It will come. You can keep stealing it from them, but they're going to get it eventually, and it just matters how painful it is. What do you say to parents of teens? Okay, what do you say to parents of teens that keep getting their children out of trouble and don't let them feel the burn, the sting, the F, the whatever it is? And
Well, I'd say what you just said, Meredith, and that is, if you don't allow the lesson to come, it will repeat itself. And it is very difficult for a parent. Going back to, I think we're in a very success achievement driven society. And because of that, parents feel a lot of pressure. And they also, we all know that they're growing up in an age now, and we are now exposed to an age where there's a lot of comparison. Okay, so you're looking at what other parents' kids are doing and all of their vacations that they're going on. And, I know this is kind of gets beaten to death, but it's true in part. We look at other people and we measure our success as parents, as people, as career people, based on what we're seeing around us. And it's very difficult for parents to not feel as if they failed in some way or on some level if their kid is the only one in the peer group that isn't going to college or that isn't, achieving all the things. So what I would say to parents of teens is, mimicking what you've said, it's like you've got to allow them to have some of these lessons now. Now, the only time, and I have done this myself, the only time that it is pertinent that you step in is, if there's a safety issue involved. Like if your kid is doing some serious drugs
yeah,
or drinking and driving, like then you step in. And clearly, and no one's advocating for you to let your kid be in a
yeah,
dangerous situation. But there are some pretty important lessons that can be, if you don't prepare for the ACT or the SAT, if you don't hand in that assignment and it's the third assignment you haven't signed in or haven't handed in, these are all things that are going to have consequences. And most of the time, the natural consequences are what needs to teach the lesson.
yeah. That's how I always look at it. Like my husband, he is more of a coddling parent, and I'm more of a like a consequence, cause and effect parent. So if you forget your gym clothes and I keep bringing them, there's nothing that keeps you from forgetting your gym clothes. That will never become the forefront of your brain of, oh shit, if I forget my gym clothes again, I'm screwed. And then I'm going to have to run a lap or get a D or whatever. Whereas you keep bringing the gym clothes, you keep bringing the lunch money instead of having them eat the peanut butter sandwich. You keep doing that. And I deal with this with him when it comes to setting alarm clocks. I'm like, I promise you, I have a 28 and a 30-year-old, 27 and 29-year-old. I promise you they will eventually figure out the damn alarm if you stop waking them up. My older two, I have two different, ex-husband. My older two, I raised pretty much exclusively. Their 5th birthday, they got an alarm clock. That was it for me. That was the end of it. And people could say I'm mean, but my kids like very self-actualized. The younger two, they're both going into high school. He's still waking them up. It makes me mentally insane because I keep telling him, you're not doing them any favors. And also the success, you're stealing their success too. When you
Yeah.
steal a kid's failure, you also steal their success. And then you steal the way they feel about themselves, that they got themselves up and they got themselves ready and they figured it out. That also is a huge part of self-esteem and self-worth. And you're also taking that because you're coddling them and all of this stuff. What do you say to parents when you come in? Because I'm at the point where I'm just like, I can't fight the fight anymore because he refuses. Like he will set his alarm 15 minutes ahead of time so that to be able to wake them up, and then listens when they're like, I can't wake up. I didn't hear it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's a situation. What do you say when you have a parent that's a logical parenting of cause and effect? There's a behavior, there's effect, it is a natural consequence. This is what it looks like. And then you're got the parent that's like, well, we only have them for a certain amount of time, and I don't want to be mean, and I still want to be their parent, and like, need them on the moon. I can't live in
Yeah,
that
I'm
space.
sure you've had every possible argument. That is very challenging. If I had you and your husband in a room with, I would probably not say anything different than you, other than like, it's just coming from someone that's not you.
Right.
You are not doing your kid a service. When you do something for them, they can and should be doing for themselves. You take away their purpose. That was one of my most popular videos. I mean,
Yeah.
like you take away their purpose. And on some level, that purpose is to gain the ability to do it themselves. That's their purpose. That in part, that is their purpose. To be self-sufficient, to be able to, and yet, find another way other than the alarm clock to still parent them, to still be available to them.
Yeah.
That's creating a situation where it's creating a dependency. And what's going to happen when these kids go off to, whether it's a work life or a trade school or college, and they can't get themselves up.
Like
And that's
literally
the
now.
reality. I mean, like I work with parents all the time whose 20 somethings cannot get up on their own. And it takes mom or dad 8 million times of calling upstairs or going in the room or like literally ripping the blankets off the bed to get their ass out of bed.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, like then I don't know, there's just I never brought my kids gym clothes, and to this day they'll be like, you were mean, you didn't bring our gym clothes. And I'm like, yeah, and you own your own home and you have a car and a job and you pay your own bills and you haven't asked me for a dime since you graduated from high school. Like you are an outstanding adult. Like you're killing life, like both of you. And it's just like, and that's because you figured out how to get yourself together. What are you seeing now? Because I'm sure you're deep in this whole
It's a lot.
When you go no contact?
Oh,
you got to be deep in
like an estrangement situation.
Yeah, like where the kids are like going no contact with their parent. What do you say when you see, or do you comment, or do you just scroll? Are you getting clients where the parents are estranged from their kids, or are you more like the 18, 19, 20 to 24 where that's not happening yet?
Well, Yes, I'm not, I mean, I get all sorts of questions. And I actually have a lot of young people that reach out to me that really want to better understand how to talk to their parents so their parents will listen. So much so that I created a download for young people who follow me who want to be able to talk to their parents so their parents will listen to them. There's a lot of young people that are way more responsible than we think, and they're trying to gain some ground with their parents. They're trying to, have a mutually respectful relationship, and their parents just won't have it. So to answer your question about estrangement, I am more in the realm of the typical parents that I help have a 19 to 30-year-old male or female, more often male than female, that is,
Really?
yeah, sleeping all day,
Oh, failure to
gaming
launch.
all night, either whether it's gaming or not gaming. There's a lot of weed smoking. So I deal with a lot of parents who have mental health. Their sons and daughters have multiple mental health diagnoses, ADHD, borderline personality disorder. They might be on the spectrum. Weed use, alcohol. I would say weed is the most prevalent thing though. And they're essentially what I call lost in place. Somebody else might call it failure to launch, but I'm actually working on a book at the moment called Lost in Place, because I really feel like that's what's going on with these 20 somethings. They're lost. And if you're lost, you can be found. So the book that I'm writing is to help parents, have a guidebook to help their young person find their life, because they're feeling hopeless. A lot of young people are feeling hopeless.
And
So I do get questions on estrangement. To me, there's a couple books I recommend on it, but also, and I've kind of been through the situation myself with my dad. We're in a better place now, but I, was estranged from my dad for a couple of years. So I can identify with the young person who has felt the need to be estranged. I feel like I have had enough life experience with all the things that I've gone through, from being a teen mom to walking through addiction with my son, who still struggles with his mental health today, to really be relatable. And coaching parents that I do this in the specialization that I do keeps me being a really honest parent. And like, I can't say something in my videos that I am not doing myself.
Yeah.
That just is not, it's just not, I can't be not aligned like that. And so I help parents, especially when couples come to me and they're maybe not on the same page, or they think they're on the same page, and then we start talking about it, and it's like, no, actually you're giving mixed messages. You are giving this son or daughter very mixed messages, and that's why you're staying stuck in this really unhealthy pattern.
Do you think that the kids that are what you're describing as like lost
Yeah.
in place,
Yes.
do you feel that that is a form of perfectionism?
Possibly. To be honest with you, what I really think is going on is there is messaging that some young people are more gravitated to for whatever reason. I have 4 sons, and they're, mid 20s or early 20s to late 30s. None of my sons, and this is not to speak about my parenting is the best or anything like that. It's just, there's some messaging out there that is hitting young people that is extremely negative and putting them in a state of mind of believing that the world is a hopeless place.
Oh,
And I had a number of young people reach out to me and say, I didn't ask to come into this world. I mean, this is like, I didn't ask to come into the world. Therefore, my parents brought me in, and they are financially responsible for me for the duration of my life. And could I be doing more? Could I have purpose? Could I have a job? I could, but I don't want to. I would much rather lay in my bed and look at the bedroom wall and scroll on my phone. So I believe the biggest detriment to young people feeling hopeless and being in this lost space is that there's a vast amount of choices open to them, and they're afraid to make a choice. So that's part of it. They're getting so much information thrown at them. They they're feeling, again, hopeless. The feed is curated so that, if you gravitate towards those things that are disaster
You keep
or
getting it.
conspiracy theories or whatever, or that, you're a white male and you have no chance in the world anymore, whatever, like,
Yeah.
that just keeps coming at them. And you if you're scrolling on your phone 12 hours a day, this is what you're going to believe.
Yeah, because it keeps telling you how right you are, because that's
Yeah.
what the algorithm is meant to do, is tell you how intelligent you are. Your ideas are all perfect. And here's all the documentation and videos to support that. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Um, what do you think is a sign that a parent is parenting from fear rather than like trust and knowledge and knowing? Like when do you go, oh God, this is screaming the parent is in a place of fear? Because I always look at like if you're doing anything from a place of fear versus like love and indifference. I think indifference is the step to love. You kind of have to be like not intertwined, like too caught up in
Yeah.
the ego, right?
Yeah.
So I look at it as indifference and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be indifferent about my child. They are them, I am me. And therefore, no matter what they do, drugs, drinking, bad relationships, shitty job, whatever it is, if I can be indifferent, that is going to help me to love them more. It's when I get all in my head that it's hard to love someone, right? And so when you're in a place of fear, now you are not indifferent. You are wrapped up. You are trying to control. You are judging their every move. And now you are trying to fix and manipulate and adjust to make you comfortable. Right? This is
Yeah.
so much of
Yes.
this is to make mom and
Oh yeah.
dad comfortable.
Yes.
Okay.
It's parents emotions that get in the way all the time. Parents
Right.
emotions, the fear, guilt, frustration, overwhelm. Fear is the most, right? When a mom comes to me and she's like, I'm just so anxious. Like sometimes you can tell someone is so emotionally enmeshed with their kid. It's like, this is, and the key, I wish I had the answer to articulate, because I've done it for myself and I've talked to people about how I've done this, but it doesn't tell them how to do that. I think that's every person's personal journey. Like I can't tell you how to have a healthy distance from your son or daughter and who they are, and not that they're a reflection of you.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how to do it. I have done it myself. And for me, it came when my son was in like the darkest place in his active addiction. Like I just realized I do not know why Nick came into the world. I do not, the more I tried to control, the more fearful I was, and the more I tried to control whether or not he was going to drink and drive, or, all the myriad of other things that were going on in his active addiction. I woke up one morning and I was like, I don't know why he's here. I don't know why he's here. I don't know what he's supposed to experience. All I can do is two things. One, love him where he's at. Two, do not do anything that enables this behavior. And shortly thereafter, he got thrown in jail, and I didn't bail him out of jail. Like to me, and that was one of the most difficult things I've ever done as a parent. When your kid is crying and calling you from jail and begging you to get them out because they know that they shouldn't be there and they can do better and whatever, to say, I'm sorry, I'm not bailing you out. I can't do it. I love you that much. Like, and I hear you, Meredith, talking about this a little bit as well. Like, I love you so much that I am not going to bring you those gym shoes or your lunch or whatever. I did something a little bit, I modified. Like I would give my kids 2 chances in the school year. Right.
Well, I do that more so now because I'm available. When I was a younger mom, I was at work. Like if you forgot your shit, that ship has sailed. You know what I mean? And that's not a choice that I was making.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm home, I work from home. So it is easy for me to run 5 minutes. And, if it's like, I mean, today these kids have and I will say my younger kids have a lot more on their plate than my older kids. My older kids played summer baseball. That was it. They had like 30 to 45 minutes of homework. That's it. Kids these days have year-round sports and practice for hours and hours. And like, it
And
is
that's ridiculous. That right there.
crazy,
That's ridiculous. And
crazy.
the thing about it is, I really hoped that COVID, when everything shut down and we all had to go home, I had a kid in band at the time, and band in Texas is fucking nuts. I mean, it's
Right.
like three a day practices in 100-degree heat. I mean, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
Yes, it's wonderful and to get them to a certain level, but I also think we burn these kids out by the time they're in college when we do this. But regardless, I was really hoping, and I've said this out loud several times, I really hope that this is a reset for the schools, and my kids went to public school, for everyone to really think about, what's important here. And what's important here are relationships and our connections and eating family dinner together, not to have practice 7 nights a week over the frickin' dinner hour.
Yep.
And of course, here we are 5 years later, and here we are
Back
in the same, grind. But, and people have to make intentional choices on that. Not that I want to go down that rabbit hole, but
no, it is nuts. And my husband is an ex college football player, so his world is sports. He worked in sports for 30 years. He went to college with sports. That's not my thing. So like, I look at it and I'm like, why are we not spending this money on tutors? Why? But we parent from very different places. That said, my kids are very athletic, and it is keeping them, in great friend groups and doing great things. But it is like, I think I look at it now, having the perspective more in alignment with your perspective. Like, we have this big chunk of time of our life, of our whole adult life, basically, of being a parent for 30 plus years. And we can look and go, okay, love, support, don't judge. Like, I just had to take my daughter to the emergency room for being sick. And I just had to sit there as much as possible and not speak. And I knew that was my role with her, because she gets wound up. And so I'm like, okay, just sit here and don't speak. And like, then if she talks to you, just be like, yep, and then go back in. Because if I start to fix, not good. If I over ask how she's doing, not good. And so like, I think it's what each kid needs, and being tuned into that and seeing negative reaction and honoring it, honoring their negative reaction, and not saying, well, you'll listen to me because
For
I'm
sure.
the parent, et cetera, et cetera. Just being like, okay, they're their own human.
Yeah.
At 16, you're your own human.
It's a basic mutual respect between
Yeah.
this is your son or daughter. That does not, and
I
when
don't
people
own
say,
them.
you must respect me, it's like, okay, you need to be the model of respecting your child and who they are. Now, are there times, of course, when a parent needs to lead? Of course. I'm not saying that, you let the kid lead around,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of ways that you can give kids their autonomy and give them choice in their world. And that needs to be cultivated. I mean, I've done that a lot with my own kids. What is my non-negotiable? Well, after walking through addiction with my oldest son, non-negotiable was drug use, of course, and underage drinking. Like, that was the non-negotiable. And I could give them choice and latitude in what level of classes they took at school, whether it was AP, not AP, they had to be involved in something outside of school, but what that was, I didn't care. I wasn't going to push them to, do a certain thing. It always hurt. It was always kind of sad. My daughter was in drama for a while, and actually both my son and my daughter. And when they ended that, like, when they both kind of decided, I was like, oh, you guys are so good. I love watching you up on stage. But you have to let that go as a parent. They have to try on these. This is not about you.
Right.
I think not about
biggest
you.
thing. Like, I think if any parent can go into being a parent and like plaster that all over the wall, it's not about you. It's not about how you feel. It's not about what you think. It's not about what your end game with this child is. Like, you're there to just kind of go like this: tap, 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 tap. Let me help you over here. Tap, tap, tap. And that's it. Like, you can't squeeze, because when you squeeze, you break them. When you squeeze, you're holding too tight. What is an old school parenting that just makes you crazy?
Just throw them out.
Throw them all
Does
out.
that make sense? Just throw them, like just throw them. Like if you look at my comments on my videos at times, I think there's really two camps of parents right now. And I'm trying to bring them towards the middle. The one camp of parent is the old school parent that is like, just throw them out, just throw their ass out. Just throw, like they're, just turn off the
If they don't like
Wi-Fi.
it, leave.
Yeah, like it's my way or the highway.
No?
And if they don't like it, tell them, just get the hell out. Okay. So that is something that irritates me because as an 18-year-old, I experienced it as a pregnant 18-year-old. So that is not the answer to me. Nor is it though, the other camp of parents is like, but my son has mental health issues. My daughter has they're anxious and like they're way too accommodating. So my goal is to help parents kind of, kind yet firm.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's certain non-negotiables. Like I said, for us, it was underage drinking. Like that was a non-negotiable pretty much. And
so what does that look like? So my kid has mental health issues. I've told them they have to get a job. My kid is drinking. I told them that they're not allowed to. What is the other side of that? You're saying those are non-negotiables or those are whatevers. Then what? What if they just don't?
You sound like, yeah, that's another thing parents, okay. That means you're talking at them. A lot of what I coach is you've got to come up alongside and parent with your kids. Obviously before they're in their 20s would be wonderful, but that's not what has happened. We've had the dominant parenting paradigm for so long. I'm the parent, you're the child, you need to listen. And this, while temporarily might work, maybe even through high school, there comes a point at which parents, kids will rebel. They'll be like, fuck you. Like, yeah. I'm not listening. So then the parent's like, what's the consequence when my 22-year-old won't come home at the time what's the consequence? Like that does, I'm sorry. Like when I read my comments on my videos, I'm like,
they become whiny.
Yes. In my mind, it's like, what's the consequence? Okay. All right. So here's what you need to be able, this is why the quality of your relationship all through has to be pretty decent. But if they're in their 20s and you have a really shitty relationship with your kid, that is a time to start really focusing on it and working on it. And that might mean that the rules and the things that you want to tackle have to be set to the side for a little bit until you can reestablish a connection and a relationship with them. Hey, we've got a problem. And the problem is I cannot be financially responsible for your entire life. That is just not going to fly. I am stressed out about this. I am taking too much of the responsibility now that you're 25 years old. We need to find a way that we can work on this together. And I'm under no delusion. I say this all the time, that kid that 20 something is going to say, oh, you're right, mom. We should work together on this. Okay. I get that. I would be blown away if that is what happened, but it's a starting point for, we've got to work on this together. Because if you keep talking at them and telling them what they need to do, they're digging their feet in the ground. And it's just, this unhealthy pattern is going to take longer and longer to work its way through. So my suggestion and what I've seen work is when parents come up alongside and say, define the problem. There's a problem. The problem is, and then use an I statement. I am frustrated because I am more financially responsible for you than I want to be at this point in my life. I can no longer do this. Can we agree that this household has become very tense? And, the right. whole point of making the agreement statement is that it's something that your kid would be like, yeah, I can agree. It sucks to live here. How can we work on this together? And then develop a small plan wherein the parent is going to have to take some steps back and stay there so that the kid understands, okay, my mom is not paying for my phone anymore. Like I literally need a freaking job if I'm going to actually have a phone. And I hear a lot of, and when this happens, I hear a lot of parents, their kids become dysregulated. They're angry, they're upset. And so that's when the parent's like, okay, I can't do this.
Just get out. Just get out, right? Just go. I can't.
That, or like, I can't do this. They step back in and they keep paying for the phone because they're afraid of the kid. To be honest with you, when I hear from parents, what they're afraid of most is that they will set a boundary and their kid will kill themselves. I mean, that's what ultimately what the biggest fear is, and what keeps them at times, especially if there have been attempts in the past or there's some mental health issues. And we have to have a healthy respect for that, for sure. Like, I'm not saying ignore the fact that your kid is, totally depressed. You've got to work with them where they're at. We have this problem. So it's clarity, getting clear on what the problem is, getting clear on the fact that you need to work together, consistently talking about working together. It may take 12 conversations like this before anything happens. They need to truly understand that you're taking a different route and different approach to the parenting now. You're not trying to parent over them. You are trying to parent with them. You actually do want their input, or their parents actually do want the input from the young person on how to fix the problem. They want that. And I always tell parents, if your son or daughter makes a suggestion that is even the least bit viable, please take it.
Yeah.
Please take it and just say, okay, that's a great idea. Let's try it for 2 weeks and see how it goes.
When my kids were younger, my older ones, it was a difficult parenting route. Okay. Just let's put it that way.
Mhm.
Very. And I was a single mom, and I don't remember where I heard it, but it was like behavior modification, where we came up with the top 5 worst things they did. And we sat down and we're like, okay, if you do this, let's come up with an answer of what your punishment is together. What's the
Yeah, for
cause
sure.
and effect? Okay. And so we came up with that together, because and then when they did it, and this was marked on a board on a wall, right? A whiteboard. So then if they did it, I only had to be the unemotional cop. I did not put you in timeout for 5 minutes. You knew if you did this that you chose that you would be in timeout for 5 minutes. So you did this. I'm just the judge saying, go sit in timeout.
Yeah.
I'm not emotional. I'm not coming up with shit on the fly. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be grounded for the rest of your life. Like, there's no emotion. I already knew. And so we had the 5 worst things, and then we had the 5, and we all sat down and we came up with that together. It was on the wall. It was posted, and it's
Yeah.
the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. If you go 40 and a 25, I'm the unemotional cop. I might be pissed because you're putting people in danger. However, I don't have to come up with it on the fly and yell at you and berate you. It's
Yeah.
already there. You did this to yourself, right?
Yeah. Involve
And
them in the process. You involve them in the process of figuring out what would happen, what the consequence would be if X thing happened, or if they chose to do XYZ. You involve them in the process of what the consequence would be, which makes total sense. And it's
Right.
like that in itself also teaches mutual respect, right? Like, let's talk this through together. It's not about me having to do this to you.
Right.
We're going to work on this together. And actually, this consequence is going to be for you to understand and make a different choice next time.
And I don't hate you. It's not
Mm.
emotional. I'm not like just freaking out because I'm trying to make up something very quickly because I'm mad at you. It was just like, you got a ticket for speeding. It's just the way that it is, right? So when I look at parenting now versus like when I was a kid growing up, it was more like, Meredith, you're going to therapy, takes me to therapy, looks at therapist and says, fix her, right? Mom said, fix her. Just go fix her. The way I look at parenting and therapy and all this now is, if my kid's having an issue, it's either the world outside, right? Or it's me. Like, what am I not having enough dinners? Am I not having enough date nights with my kids? Am I not being clear with what I expect? Am I not involved enough? So like, even with my oldest, I said to him the other day, I'm like, let's go to therapy together, because now everything's on Zoom, right? And you could tell the therapist what a wild piece of shit I was. Like, I am here for. He's like, you could never handle that. I'm like, watch. I'm like, you could say whatever, because I mean, I was 23, 24 years old. You know what I mean? Like, when I became a mom,
Yeah.
just like, let's do it. Because whatever anger or frustration or whatever it is, and he's, like, he calls me every day, so it's not like there's an issue. but there is an issue. There's always an issue. There's always something that can be worked on, right? If there's any sort of anything, like I always look at it and I'm like, hey, let's do this together. I don't believe in taking your kid to therapy and saying, go fix them.
Oh no, yeah. And that's, I think that's what a lot of young people feel like. They're the one in the family that's causing the problem, so they have to, go to therapy. And I think there can be value in young people doing their own work, right? To be fair. But I think also to do family sessions along with that is super important as well. So when parents, the shift that I suggest to them when they, and inevitably they come, almost every day I talk to a parent who, I have a 20 something who's depressed and they won't get help. They refuse to go to therapy. Well, they're looking at it typically because the parent is like, let me make an appointment for you for the therapist, as opposed to getting 3 or 4 recommendations through your insurance, if they're part of your insurance, and saying, look, here's what I'm seeing in you that I'm concerned about. And I'd be happy to go with you, but I'm also thinking that this could be something that you might want to talk through on your own. Here are 3 that I thought might be interesting to look at their websites and get an idea. And then you can interview them before you decide.
Yeah.
Putting it in their hands. Because I think young people feel like their parent just like says, you need to go to therapy. And then they either don't give them like any direction and they're not really sure how to deal with that. Or they give them, here's the therapist you're going to go to Friday at 2:00. And that's way too much, right? So it's about recognizing where your kid is, kind of where they're at, what they can handle, and working with them. I mean, a 4-letter word that I love to use all the time is with. Let's do it with them, not at them, not for them, with them.
Yeah. Do you think when the kid won't get fixed, when do you pull the plug and just say, I'm out? Like, when's the I'm out? Like, what is there an I'm out? Or is it keep going? Is it fix mom? Is it fix dad? Is it fix family? Like, when do you say, I can't do this anymore? It's too hard.
Well, I think there comes a point when the parent is done trying to fix the kid and they have to only work on what they control, which is themselves and how they're showing up. I mean, I work with some very complex situations where, you have a 30-some young 30 or early 30-year-old living at home who's maybe he went to college and then kind of came back home and that didn't work. And then maybe he went out in the work world for a couple of years, but he keeps coming home. That's not a hopeless situation to me, nor is it one that I necessarily think has to be like, get out of the house. I think that you can understand, you have to get to the core issues, what's really going on here. So I spend a lot of time with parents, like identifying what are the core issues, what is going on here, and then working with them where they're at. So the parent's going to be a little bit uncomfortable in the process of this. The young person's going to be a little bit uncomfortable because they're going to be asked to do some things, but not thrown the book at, not like it's not all or nothing. It's going to be done in steps.
Are you seeing with social media, because I have someone that brought this up to me, where everyone now has a diagnosis or are diagnosing themselves via social media. Like all of a sudden everyone's on the spectrum, everyone has anxiety, everyone's bipolar, everyone is anxious, yada yada. And are you seeing that? Is that an excuse? Is that a cry for help? Is that a crutch? Is that reality? What are you seeing? I mean, like when you and I were young, there was no language for any of this. Like,
I know. And I also think in general, I mean, it would be foolish to say there's not a rise in mental health issues in young people. I mean, I'm not a statistician, so I'm not going to quote, X number or whatever. I do know that there's a lot more diagnosis of mental health issues in young people because I think it does exist. I think they were exposed to things that we weren't. I'm 56 years old. So I think they were exposed to many things that we weren't. A ton of information on social media, right? When they weren't ready for it, and it continues to come at them. Shooter drills. I don't think we didn't fully understand, or I don't know. These things have impacted kids. Like, they impact their outlook on the world. They impact where they feel safe, what they can trust, what's true, so I do think that the world is having an impact on their mental health. It's also much less stigmatized. So people are gravitating to that. And now when someone will come to me, or I think I've probably said this from time to time, the multiple diagnoses that come at me with, parents will say, my kid has ADHD, they're on the spectrum, they got borderline personality disorder, like literally 5 or 6 things. It's like, okay, that's a lot. But let's look at their day to day. Let's look at what they're capable and start incrementally finding ways for you to step back and them to step in. And you may have to wait for them to step in. They may not step in the second that you step back. You're going to stay back because you also need to let them know you believe in their ability and that they are capable. And that is going to be your consistent message. I love you and I believe you can do this. I know you're capable. They need to hear that instead of constantly hearing where they're not doing well.
Well, so one of my kids, they have an IEP, and every time we go in for those meetings, it's, which is great, whatever. They are very helpful. And they're like, so what are the goals that you have for your child? And I say the same thing every single year in every single meeting. I want my kid to still love school. I'm not going to sit here and beat the living hell out of them for struggling with homework. I'm not going to fight with them to sit down for 2 hours every night. Like, you've got them for 7 hours, figure it out. Like, we're just not going to do it. And I'm not going to fight with my kid. I'm not going to have a shitty relationship with them so that they hate coming here.
Yeah. You want them to love learning.
Yeah. My oldest daughter, we laugh. She graduated from college, very successful. And I still am not sure she knows how to spell. Like, but we didn't talk about it.
Okay, we got spell check. I mean,
God made spell check. God made spell check. And I look at it and I'm like, but if I would have berated her and made it a negative situation instead of looking at the 98% of other things that she was good at, I mean, she would literally make up words like prettyful. And the only reason I'm saying this on here is because we laugh about it and she doesn't care. Yeah. But if you only focus on the negative, which I think sometimes when you get these diagnoses, you're like, my kid can't do that because of the diagnosis. And then instead of the diagnosis going, okay, this is how we're going to make the cake because we only have applesauce, we don't have sugar. I think sometimes when you have a diagnosis now, it's like, we can't even make the cake.
Yeah. And okay, so I have a good relevant personal example of this. When my son became addicted to alcohol in 2008, he was 20 years old. I mean, it was obviously a very challenging time and I didn't have I was really trying to navigate it myself, and it was overwhelming, shoot, where am I going with this? Oh, I know. Okay. So he ended up going to inpatient treatment and going into sober living and all the things. I was doing a lot of blog writing back then, and I was writing a lot about him. And it dawned on me at one point, several months into this, and talking about him and addiction and whatever. And it wasn't that he wasn't behind the work that I was doing, and he still is very much behind the work that I'm doing. I noticed that I was totally defining him by depression, OCD, and alcoholism.
Yeah.
I was totally defining this kid. And I was like, Nick is so much more than this. Like, he's so much more than this. And so I often tell parents, I have a parent support group that I do twice a week. And I often will say, like, be careful not to define your kid simply by this diagnosis. That is an aspect of who they are. It is not who they are. And I
Yeah.
do think that I also think that parents are afraid of, maybe because we didn't grow up with a lot of depression, anxiety, a lot of like borderline personality. We might have known someone with borderline personality, but we didn't know that's what it was called.
Right.
Like they were just a difficult kid to like be around or something like that, or they were very black and white thinking. But I think we are a little afraid of, when our kid gets diagnosed with something. I totally immersed myself in learning about adolescent addiction and alcoholism and major depressive disorder and OCD when my son, when all of these things came together. Because to me, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And I think parents sometimes they don't, or if they do educate themselves, they educate themselves and get more scared, which is
Yeah.
not helpful.
Yeah.
It's not helpful. Educate yourself. It is a part of who your son or daughter is. It's maybe an explanation as to why they can't do something as readily, or it's going to take longer, but it's not an excuse.
Yeah, no, I think that's so huge because like since going through menopause now feel anxiety. I never had anxiety ever, but now all of a sudden this stupid thing it does. And so I have to just ground myself, do some deep breaths, and then find my balance again because my brain has changed. Like my brain is doing whatever it does. And so it's just a bit of a workaround. However, it's also causing me to be more present and not power through everything like a wackadoo and actually pay attention to the way I feel about things versus be superwoman. So although I feel anxiety, it's actually to me more of a red flag that says, hey, slow down. You're going too fast. You need to ask for help. You don't need to do it all yourself. So I look at anxiety or the feelings of anxiety as a red flag to pay attention to. Now,
Sure.
granted, I'm not everybody. I'm not trying to say this is everybody's situation. I'm just saying that there are workarounds. Like I have to listen to certain songs now when I take off on an airplane to kind of distract me because now all of a sudden I'm anxious to fly. Like it's so stupid. It's so annoying. So it's there and it's real, but now I just have like a little bit more that I have to work around that I didn't before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that it's so important that our children don't become a diagnosis. My older son, he has high frequency bilateral hearing loss. And he sent me a text when he was in his early 20s and said, thank you for never treating me like I was sick.
Yeah.
Thank you because he also has other things like swallowing issues and stuff like that. And I never even it wasn't even on my radar that he was sick. It was just like, figure it out, go play, go to the pool, eat pizza. Like it was like, go do whatever. And he, by way of my ignorance or confidence, I don't know which, probably both, just is like a normal human. Like he worked around and because he can't hear a whistle blow. So instead, when he's on the ice playing hockey, he paid attention to the referee. They nod their head when they blow a whistle. That's just what they do. He learned that.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, oh my God, you're never going to play hockey. Oh my God, you're not going to hear the whistle blow. What if? I was just maybe oblivious and was like, go do whatever it is. And when you can't, then we have to find the workaround. But I'm not going to get in front of it and make the excuse for you why you can't, shouldn't, won't be able to. It's just like, just go, just do it, just have at it. You know what I mean? And that worked for his benefit of me just being maybe an asshole.
Well, I think and hey, it just happened to work out, right? It happened to work out okay. But I do get your point in terms of like parents trying to get ahead of things and trying to find that workaround for someone else. I will say to parents on a regular basis, what is your work to do and what is their work to do? Yeah. Stop trying to do their work. Is this your work? So when you're in a situation and you're, you want to jump in, and then you need to ask yourself, is this my work to do? Because if it's not, I need to stop. I need to shut it down right there.
I love that. Oh my God.
That's my work to do. What is your work to do? And to go back to what we were saying before, it's not about you. It's not about you, but it is about you. It's not about you. in terms of, your child has come here to have their own life lessons and whatnot. And yes, you're the guardrails and that kind of thing. And it's everything about you, because our children are our greatest teachers.
They really
And
are.
when parents will say to me, they don't come with a manual, I say, do you know what? You are the manual in which your grandchildren will be raised. So think about the book you want to write.
You're the
Because
voice
it's
in your
true,
kid's
right?
head. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the voice. And there's so many people, especially on Facebook, that like I will talk out and speak out about physical punishment, and it's the Gen Xers are all, I turned out all right. And it's like, but did you? Are
Yeah,
you,
right.
like if you're
Yeah.
still, like I just heard
And you need
someone
to
that,
say that there's something, if you feel compelled to say, but I turned out all right, I think
right
that
there.
there's right there is something need to be looked at. The fact that you have to say that.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to say that. I have looked back at my childhood. I have reconciled where my parents really did well and where my parents didn't emotionally support me the way I needed to. And I've tried to parent from that. I've tried to parent, and I don't mean overindulging my kids in any way, but there are definitely some moments when my parents could have been, more emotionally supportive. And for example, when, my son was walking through his addiction, my parents, when I got pregnant, was like, you're out of here. You've disappointed the family. You're out of here. I didn't want to do that with him, but I also wanted to be very cognizant of not enabling the situation to continue. So it was you have to be very present of mind and intentional. So that's what I work with parents on, again, when we're in coaching, is like, you have to become very intentional. Slow down, become intentional with, what do I want to do here? What do I want to say here? Most things do not need to be said or done very, very quickly. It's not a life or death situation. So let's slow down and become intentional, get clear, be consistent in our messaging, making sure that your words and your actions are in alignment. Because when they aren't, when their mixed messages are coming in, the young person can tend to stay in that unhealthy pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a book. It's an Amazon #1 new release. Stop it right now. Becoming Me While Raising You. Like, congratulations on that, PS.
Thank
That's
you.
huge. And that's available on Amazon, or is that a pre-order?
Yeah.
Where are we at with that?
No, it's in Amazon. It's in paperback. I've always wanted to do it it's a parenting memoir, really. It talks about my childhood and the 6 beliefs that I took on unconsciously that were playing out in my parenting and my marriage until this time when my son went through this very difficult time. So it's also a story of walking with my son through his addiction to alcohol, and then making a conscious decision to live from different personal beliefs. So asking myself important questions, like, as a late 30s, early 40s, something-year-old woman, what do I believe about myself? Where did that come from? When is the first time I remember believing that about myself? Is it actually true? And if it's not true, what is true and more empowering? So I redefined what I personally believe about myself, and it is more empowering. And the hardest work is to make decisions and live your life from those empowering thoughts. It's a practice. So every time I show up and do a TikTok video, every time I, do something that, like when I do a presentation in person, not my favorite thing to do, but I am honoring my new belief about myself that what I have to say matters, because I lived a lot of my life being quiet and not speaking up because I didn't believe that what I had to say mattered, because it was something I took on as a 6-year-old.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. Tell the listeners, the viewers, what and how can they get a hold of you? What does coaching look like? Group coaching, you said you have a 2 a week or something
Yeah.
group situation. What does that look like to work with you? Because I'm sure everyone out there is listening going, holy shit, I need this. Or at least I hope they are.
Yeah. So my website is reallifeparentguide.com. And I do offer group 2 groups a week, 2 calls a week, Tuesday evening and Thursday midday. And it's for parents of 18 and older. and they have a bunch of different challenges going on, but there's typically about 15 to 20 parents on the call, and I can usually talk to about 6 parents. So I try and be very fair about how those parents get chosen, and I coach them through, and they have an action step that they leave with. I don't want it to, it's definitely a place where it's very non-judgmental, very supportive. People come in and they have, sometimes they don't have anyone else to vent to, or they just need to get some of that emotion out, and that's okay. I just don't want the group to become a dumping ground. So I'm very clear about, you come in, you can share some of your feelings, then you ask a pointed question, or I take you through something so that you have an action step. I never want this just to become a dumping ground where like people just bitch and moan.
Yeah.
So I've got that twice a week. And then I do individual sessions. I do a 90-minute session if someone they just need a plan, like they're in a situation and they just don't know what to do next. And they know if they had a plan, they could carry that out. So I do a 90-minute session, single session. And then I have, like if it's a situation where it's one of these sleeps all day, up all night, doesn't have a job, is depressed, all the things, I know that takes considerable time to make movement on. So I have a 10-session program that I take parents through. And that typically runs 4 to 6 months of concentrated personal health, private health. So,
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. Incredibly useful to create healthy relationships between parent and child. Because to me, when I'm with my adult children, or they're calling and talking to me about their life, or inviting me to their house, or wanting to be with me, I look at that as the greatest success of my life, is having a relationship where I'm at. Like, it's a relationship with me where I can be okay with me, with whatever they're doing. And also that they want me there at 29, at 27. They still want me in the room. They still want to be around me. Especially, and I will tell you that for me, 99.9 of that was being there when they were little and stepping back as an adult and letting them be themselves. Like, those to me are the two that I feel is at the crux of my success. But they're not even 30 yet. So I have a whole grandparent, marriage, house buying chapters to live through, which are going to be a whole nother ball of wax of shutting my mouth and sitting there quietly scrolling TikTok so as to not be overbearing. So, as soon as we think we have it mastered, we are shoved right back in and going, you have nothing mastered.
Yes, that's right. Well, I mean, let the journey, I have a tattoo on my foot and it says, let the journey never end. And to me, that means, learning is constant throughout our lives. So yes, you just think you have your kids figured out and everything is good. I mean, even when they were tiny babies, right? Oh, this is what gets him to stop crying. And then all of a sudden that doesn't work anymore. So you're constantly evolving as a human being. And like, the title of the book, becoming me while raising you, 100% feel like that defines what a parent is.
Yeah. And, everyone out there that's listening, that's Gen X, and millennials, and like, we're in it. We're the ones that are changing these generational curses and traumas. We have the language, the information that you're putting out into the world would have been saved for, college students, psychology students, sociology students, of a 4-year degree. And now this information is out in the world for so many people to get and learn and see. And that is a wonderful privilege for us as parents and as children to be able to have access to these tools. And so this is the game changer. This is the generational change, I think. So thank you for being a part of that.
Thank you.
I'm sure that we're going to need you more and more every single day, as we do have the kids that are kind of stuck and the parents that are stuck. As parents, we're stuck too. We need to learn these tools.
For sure. When your kid is stuck, you are stuck. And unfortunately, I don't think this is a phase that I think it's going to continue. I think it's going to keep going, in part because of the media and social, like all that influx coming in. I think that's not going to go away. And I think some of this is a result of that. So I don't think I'm going to be out of a job anytime soon.
No, it's funny because I wrote a book. It was like birth through 5. And in my computer, it's named Stop Raising Assholes.
Oh,
And just
I love it.
that's what it's called in my computer anyways. But the crux of it was like, don't expect your kid to sit down at a restaurant when all you do is have them walking around eating squeezy pouches at home. Like, and that's the crux of the entire book, which is stop training them one way and expecting a different result. Like, we cannot live like this as parents and then just be mesmerized why our kids can't figure out how to sit at a 2-hour dinner at, Outback Steakhouse or whatever. So yeah, you may be inspiring me to go back and write my birth through age 5, Stop Raising Assholes, because you're going to end up with an asshole.
I really like the title. I think it's very catchy. I think that people would be like, I got to get this book because I don't want to raise an asshole, right?
You don't want to raise an asshole, and you're raising assholes. No one wants to be around your child. They are an asshole, and it's because of you. They didn't go get the squeezy pouch. They didn't even know the squeezy pouch existed. You have introduced the squeezy pouch, and now your kid's an asshole. So I think you and I, Kim, might be cut from the same cloth, but
yes, it sounds like it.
I love it so much. Well, thanks so much for being here. Everybody go check out her book on Amazon, Becoming Me While Raising You. Kim, thanks again so much for being here. Real life parenting guide. And she's got coaching and single sessions and group weeklies. And that's exactly what I think everyone who has a child over the 18 needs. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Meredith. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, I'll see you here next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the TikTok Famous Podcast with Meredith Willits. If you're loving the unfiltered stories and behind-the-scenes truths, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show. Until next time, let's get famous.